And we started to try to understand Main Street, because Main Street is an important part of this project, and it is a place where you really have a chance to create that vibrancy. And so we had to look at this photograph and looked at what was formerly on the south side of Main Street, and what we realized here is that the buildings actually are designed by different architects, and they range in, they were built over a span of about 80 years, from the earliest to the latest. There's a lot of variety too, there's all different styles, but it gives it a vibrancy and it gives it a quality. On the other side, on North Main Street, there's an incredible quality as well. There we have, you can see the evidence of Lexington kind of starting out humbly, with this building in 1830. This is the Thai restaurant right now in the corner, all the way up to hiring a New York architect, McKinley and White, to design this building in 1913. So you have quite a range as well, but all of you know it's nice to walk down that street. It feels good, the diversity is great, as well as the courthouse, as a very important centerpiece, I think, still for downtown Lexington. Today, if we look at this is, just the Google Street View, some of this is out of date, but, you can see the gaps. But this is, again, different architects, different times, different, design ideas. And I know that this building here, we saw in the old photograph, a really interesting little bank is being restored, so that's great. And I think this is a very nice streetscape. And this drawing is just, this is some type of drawing that architects have done over time, where you draw what's on either side of the street, like almost like there's a mirror down the middle of the road. And we're looking at the south side of the street at the top, and you can look at the scale of these buildings. This is the scale of the previous CentrePointe block. And you can see the very different scale it has from what's across the street, which is more syncopated and more done over time, I guess. So the super blocks are on the south, and the smaller scale things on the north. So to make a great street, I just have a few slides of like streets that we like, streets that we think are great today in older cities. This is in Innsbruck, Austria, where Europeans don't seem to have any problem mixing old and new. This is a really beautiful street that has a very nice building, modern building here. But what's interesting is there's a dialogue between the two sides of the street. So the two sides of the street acknowledge each other. This is a view in Barcelona, Spain, where I don't know if anyone's been to Barcelona, but they have the intersections. There's a 45-degree angle on all the buildings, so you get these kind of open spaces in Barcelona. But look at the wide variety of buildings there are there. But it's a very vibrant place, and it's a great city, and people live there and people work there, and these differences in the buildings are totally acceptable. This is on Bond Street in New York, which it's a little bit more the scale of Lexington, but there's brand new architecture coming in, and again, it's this dialogue between the different types that makes it really exciting. This is a building by Herzog Demeron that uses a glass cladding. It's like a thick glass, almost like the bottom of Coke bottles, but it's quite stunning, but it fits in. And this is a building, this is a street in Chicago. It's a very famous street, Michigan Avenue. And this is a historic district, but the city, when this building came up as an infill building, the city approved it to go ahead with the Spertus Institute, and it really was very successful. I think it makes the street more exciting, gives it some life, and it has this amazing, beautiful contrast. So those are some streets that we liked, but all of them, not all of them, but most of them, because Michigan Avenue is on the lake, but the other streets I showed you all have two sides of the street that have a dialogue. So our concept for the Main Street side, this is Main Street down here below, is to break it up into different bits, program bits. So it would break down the scale of this as opposed to feeling like a long homogeneous slab on the other side of Main Street. So we start to get this dialogue going. And then we have the idea of inviting some guest architects that are from this city and this region to design those pieces or those facades, however it works out, that we will be injecting difference and authenticity into the design instead of just having it be like our hand doing the whole thing. I think this will be an exciting way to get this dialogue, like I said, going between the two sides of the street. And it'll be interesting because, you know, when this is built, we can walk down the street and say, there's the building designed by the architect I know, and that one, that one, that one. And, I mean, we don't have the advantage of a long span of time, but we can use different talents to make it exciting. So maybe in the, you know, this is our first concept that, you know, these would be designed, this base block would have a different characters along it, and then the towers would rise up above that. Now I want to just mention about program that is, well, around the site and program that's going to be on the site. So this is a diagram with north facing up and to the right. And you see there's a nice mix of uses around the block, civic uses in purple, offices in orange, and then some especially specialty retail and residential as well around the site. What's going on the site is a very similar mix, however, adding a hotel. So these, what I was glad to hear from Woodford and Dudley Webb was that they really feel that they can still attract these kinds of uses to the site, even after the economic catastrophe that happened. It's good news, I think, for Lexington that these types of uses are still interested in this site and are willing to come and create this mix. So basically, when you add them all up, you end up with a project that's about 650,000 square feet with 2 stories below grade for parking. As architects, we usually think of these things more in volumes than we think of them in areas, and the volumes kind of sort out like this. So basically, there's a hotel, residential. Those are more the vertical elements. There's office use. There's retail uses and parking and support. I'm going to go back. So, okay, so now the next step for us is to see how do we put all these puzzle pieces together onto the site in the best way and that works urbanistically. So what we noticed in the previous plan, this is the previous plan, and this is showing a sun diagram, solar diagram. Main Street is right along here, and what we found was with the solar orientation of the tall part of the building there was casting a lot of shadow on Main Street and on the courthouse. And not only that, but it just was presenting a very tall new structure right against the Main Street facade. We looked at, so to start with, we took that same volume and we tested it in all different orientations on the site to study the shadows over the course of the year. And we came up with the idea of breaking up that volume, that slab building, into 2 smaller volumes. And we ended up finding that the best solar orientation for the building on the site in terms of its environment are to have a taller building on Vine and Upper Street here, and then this is Main Street again, and the smaller buildings along Main Street and an office building which is a lot lower on the corner of limestone on Main Street.